Hello and welcome back to my Thoughtful Thursdays video channel where we talk about important topics both inside and outside the church. As always, please make sure that you subscribe to these videos and turn on your notifications below if you'd like to see more videos like these in the future. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of panhandling, of people asking for money in the streets. Now, in the city of Peoria, this has been a rather large discussion as panhandling almost overnight seems to have exploded within the city. It is a common sight now to see someone sitting in an intersection with a sign. Frequently, you will see people sitting at the exits of stores or in off-ramps of interstates. And I think we all know what most people's response is to panhandling. Hell no, I'm not going to give. They can get a job. They're faking it. I saw one of them with a knee brace on the outside of his pants. Obviously, he's faking. They're probably making $100,000 a year scamming people. I just saw one drive away in their car. They're just going to use your money to buy drugs. I saw a sign once that said homeless vet, but no proud veteran would ever beg for money, so I split his lip open. Those are all real responses that I read in a comment section online. People are great. And I think we all have our reasons for why we don't give. I certainly know that I have mine. In fact, I had a rule that I lived by, which was I don't give to panhandlers because I don't know the difference between who actually needs it and who might be scamming the system. And I don't know how to accurately tell the difference, so I don't want to add to the problem. And it wasn't until a dear friend of mine helped me to change my mind. A group of us was having a very frank and firm discussion about this very topic at 5 a.m. kickboxing one morning. And everybody that was in the discussion was quite negative about panhandlers. I don't give here and I don't give there, and everybody's going around in the circle giving their input on it. In fact, the circle came around to me and I said the same thing, that I wouldn't give either. The group's mind was fairly made up, but there was one sole voice in opposition to everyone else that spoke up and said, guys, I give. It's really hard out there. If I can, I give. And I just remember being completely floored at the compassion and love that I heard in this person's voice. The courage and strength it took in the midst of so much negativity, of fear, shortness, and even anger. Because trust me, this is one of those subjects that can get people fired up. They will get red in the face. They will talk firmly and with strong opposition and strong words, and they will get mad. They are a blight to the city. We should just arrest them and be done with the whole thing. To be the voice of compassion and love amidst a group of people who were quite negative, well, that just felt like a heck of a lot like Jesus to me. But then she laughed and said, I mean, you guys should see my paychecks. I'm not giving a lot, but I do give if I can. That day, my mind was opened just a little bit. And I think it's really important when we're talking about panhandling to look at the stats, because there are a lot of opinions out there that are based on misinformation instead of facts. The first thing is that so many people think that panhandlers are just scamming people. Certainly there are going to be a few people out there that are scamming the system, but anecdotal evidence of a few people does not take away from the vast majority of panhandlers out there. By far, the majority of people are not scamming. Another common misconception is that people are making like a ton of money and they go back to their nice houses afterwards. Once again, the vast majority are not. The stats show that the average is 82% of people who are panhandling are homeless. Some people's claim, but I saw one drive away in a car once. Don't you think that's rather odd? Well, here's something to think about. A lot of homeless people live in their cars. What about people getting rich and making a ton of money off of grifting off of other people? Don't you think that's wrong? Again, it's just not true when you look at the large numbers. It is hard to get an average on this because every city is different. The amount of people that are out asking for money is different, but the average panhandler roughly makes about $25 a day. They sit outside in the full heat of the day, in the rain, sometimes in the freezing cold. This is not a get-rich scheme. Yet some people might still have an understandable aversion because they don't know what that person might spend the money on after it leaves their hands. I know that it's common for people to keep canned goods in their cars. I've done this before too. I'm right in the same camp because I wouldn't want the people to have money from me to be able to spend on it what they deem they need. Instead, I want to be able to deem what they need. I wonder, however, if this isn't just an ability for me to be able to judge from a higher standpoint what are the necessities that they need in their life and what are the frivolities. That I in some way get to decide what isn't a necessity. Dinty Moore beef stew is obviously a necessity for a homeless person, but they shouldn't get those things like steak or red wine. Do we hear ourselves talking right now? I don't agree with the Pope on some of his statements about LGBTQ plus people, but he gets it right when it comes to panhandlers. I have to give credit where credit is due. Many people in the United States could probably learn from the Pope on this one, including myself. Here is what the Pope says. Give them the money and don't worry about it. The Pope went on to say that people will always have reasons not to give, but he says that helping is always right. And Americans, even Catholic bishops, get so mad about this, red in the face. How dare he say something like that? Who does he think he is, the Pope? Wait a minute. But people keep coming back to this booze part. But they're just gonna buy beer or wine. I'm not gonna let my money go towards buying beer or wine. Well, the Pope responded to that one too. If a glass of wine is the only happiness he has in life, the Pope replied, that's okay. Instead, ask yourself, what do you do on the sly? What happiness do you seek in secret? Now, don't be turning this around on me, Papa Francisco. We all have those little things that help us to get through life. For some reason, we think that we should be able to have those things because we have money, but people who are down on their luck shouldn't. But I mean, I earned that wine. I have money. I'm important. In the Deconstructing Faith Summit, Father Nathan Monk pointed out a scripture that I read many times before, but have never put it together with this very issue, right out of the pages of the Bible. Find this in Proverbs 31. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire a strong drink, or else they will drink and forget what has been decreed, and will pervert the rights of the afflicted. Give strong drink to one who is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Speak out for those who cannot speak, for the rights of all the destitute. Speak out, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. Well, shoot, I guess it's in the Bible. Here's the deal. Impoverished people are people too. Just like I might need some chocolate to make it through the day, just like I might like my red wine, just like I like the occasional beer. What makes us think that people whose life has been really hard for them don't also need those things? And it's just so hard when people's immediate response is just an upset, no, I get to decide. I won't pay for anything frivolous. I don't want my money going to anything that isn't absolutely necessary. Really? You don't let your donations go towards anything frivolous? Have you ever asked for a line item transparent budget from your church? How much of your money goes towards a building because it's comfortable to sit in? How much of it goes towards electricity or things like air conditioning because they're creature comforts that we all want? What about church staffing and salaries? Or should a pastor be able to buy red wine from his salary? Please don't tell me that you only give money to the necessities and not the frivolity. And I'm not even against those other things. I'm just pointing out what Americans are okay with seemingly with their money and what they are not okay with their money. There is no need to be unnecessarily cruel and rules-based towards poor people. The mayor of Albuquerque once said, don't give panhandlers money because they might go down and take that $5 and go down to a fast food restaurant and buy a hamburger and fries. So don't give your money to panhandlers because they might buy food? That's pretty cruel. And I can hear people crying out right now watching this video, but it isn't a permanent solution. This does nothing to solve the problem. I don't think that anyone that gives out a few bucks to a panhandler thinks that they're solving the problem. But giving small amounts helps to keep people alive in the interim until a longer-term solution can be found. Even Pope Francis says the same. Don't just throw your coins at them. Touch their hands, look them in the eyes. We recognize the humanity in them. And here's a novel concept. Maybe we just ask them what they need instead of just assuming that what I think is best for them is actually the best thing for them. Obviously, there is a high rate of mental illness in panhandlers as well, and that factors into all these decisions too. Or it's really popular for people to say things like this. I saw a 35-year-old able-bodied male out panhandling and there was a help wanted sign right down the street. He could get a job. Guys, it isn't that easy. It is way more complicated than just getting a job. What about paperwork? What about copies? What if the job needs a physical mailing address? What if the person doesn't have clothes for a job interview? What if their disability doesn't allow them to work that job and they've been trying to find a job this entire time? The last thing that I want to address today in this video is drug addiction. So many people say things like this. I'm not going to give them money because they are just going to spend it on drugs. Okay. There is validity in this one. By far, the stats show that the majority of money is not spent on drugs, rather food. However, some people who panhandle are addicts. You might give, and know that some of your money is going towards their addiction. But I think people who say this or who oppose this don't truly understand how addiction works. Once again, this isn't a long-term solution. Nobody is trying to say this. However, addicts, serious addicts, need those drugs to survive. You might think that the best thing that you are doing for them is to not support their addiction. But for those modern day drugs, for all these modern day drugs that are out there on the market today, quitting cold turkey is not an option. It is life or death that they are chemically dependent on those drugs. Instead of thinking about it as enabling them in their addiction, think of it instead as being a way of compassion, of reducing harm and allowing them to live another day until a better solution is available. Compassion is key in all this, my friends. All that to say is, if you can give, it's okay to give. You shouldn't feel bad for giving. That's all the time we have this week for this topic. Next week, I want to talk a little bit about the COVID vaccine and religious exemptions. My old buddy, the Pope, has some interesting things to say about it as well, and I'm excited to talk with you about it next week. I'll see you back here next week, same time, same place.